Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Hey everybody, it's Craig from Drone Legends Aotearoa, and we've got Guidel Olivas here from America, who's a drone enthusiast and leader and innovator. Really excited to have you with us, Guidel.
Hey, thank you for having me, Dr. Hansen. As I said before, I'm just excited. When Dr. Hansen calls, you gotta answer that call for sure. I'm a big fan of yours as well, and just thank you for having me. Looking to connecting more, other than today.
I really appreciate that. We'd love to know more about how you became interested in drones, UAVs, and all of that. What sparked your interest?
Yeah, sure. So, we had a recent in a military career in early, well, I would say late '90s, early 2000s. I really kind of fell in love with like a lot of the Reaper stuff and all the technology that was involved. In Fort Huachuca, I was actually attached there in the intelligence base, and saw that they had a lot of drones and all kinds of air stuff. And it's really weird because when I was there, I was actually recruiting for special forces, military intelligence. Obviously, I'm Navy, right? So what am I going to do at an Army base? But there's a cryptology detachment there, and kind of started talking to them, and they're Navy. This one of the schools was there, and they had all kinds of hookups, stuff like that. And I told them, oh yeah. They asked me, where do you come from? You're recruiting now, obviously. What's your background? And my career had started in the C5ISR aircraft, the E2C Hawkeye. I wanted to get into aviation based off the Top Gun movie, the first one, not the recent one, right? And which was kind of cool, right? And everybody that joins aviation wants to be a pilot, and everybody that says, everybody that says opposite is lying. I know they wanted to be Tom Cruise. And obviously it came out, the aircraft that comes out with the big dome on top. It actually came out in the new movie, right, recently. So back to my story, I started off with the Hawkeyes at VAW 113, which at the time was stationed in Miramar, and then they moved on to Point Mugu, which that's where the Hawkeyes are now. And I was there for about 4 or 5 years, and just fell in love with aviation even more so. I deployed numerous times, with CAG 14 and different Commodores, different, operations that we had to do out there. Did one of the longest deployments. I mean, combat operations were crazy to say the least, but I kind of still fell and loved the aviation field, and fell again in love more with it, and see aviation now in the Fort Huachuca side when I was stationed there recruiting again. All these special, assets and special people for the special assignments in the military. And then they showed me the unmanned systems taking off, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, you guys show me, like, what do you mean? Like, we're going to have drones in there? Yeah. I mean, we've kind of had them for a bit, they said, but we'll show you. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. Remote pilots and all that stuff. And I'm like, wow. But I'm always trying to think ahead, right? What if this falls under the wrong hand? So, needless to say, I kind of went through the counter UAS ops, but had to know the technology and what, recent things are, or recent threats, or recent, technology out there, to ensure that we're kind of ready for it, long-winded, story there, but yeah, that's kind of how I got started.
So tell us about some of those threats that you're defending against and need to be thought about.
Sure.
UAVs, drones can be used.
Yeah. So the main focus when it comes to stuff like that is, there's different types of threats out there, right? They say it's the careless, right? The clueless, the ill-intentioned, right? And somebody that just doesn't know what they're doing, and that applies for all unmanned systems, right? The focus is mostly drones because that's, I guess, the mainstream side of things, if you will. But there's also the hybrid threats out there. There's underwater drones that all of a sudden pop out of the water and start flying now. And it's like, whoa, what's going on there? So now we have the UUV, counter UUV stuff, and it's the fear of probably a swarm, the fear of kinetic and non-kinetic, situations going wrong, and or there's just so many of them, right? I can't label one. Obviously, the ill intention, the criminal, right? The criminal one is always, somebody trying to cause damage or, distract or, perform something to disrupt infrastructure or, critical infrastructure as well. So, and you can read about those, all day. Somewhere, something happened. And currently I'm just kind of thinking, like, always trying to think ahead, what's next, what's coming. And I'm like, oh, World Cup, right? And we notified a couple of days ago, Fordham Technologies won that contract, right, to defend Qatar, for all the unmanned systems. So I was like, hey guys, you need something, you need anything, feel free to reach out. So you just never know. It comes down to those, specific threats and trying to pinpoint them. And they can be, like I said, they could be remote, or they could be, semi-autonomous or autonomous, at any given moment.
Might be good to define that for the people that are watching the video and the students that we have and educators. So the different types of drones and how they can be managed.
Sure. Well, we have, the semi-autonomous or autonomous. The only big difference is it might have a controller, or the big one is you program it to go specifically somewhere and you don't expect it to come back. Now you're referred to as like the kamikazes, right? They could cause, the damage. And obviously I'm looking at it on the anti-terrorism force protection side of things. But it isn't just about that, because there's drones for good out there. They're really, really amazing. Some of them are focusing on the new, unmanned traffic management that might be showing up, looking at the meetings with FAA and NASA, stuff that's coming about. I firmly believe that the Jetsons is going to be, that's old cartoon in the 80s. For those of you that don't know, we're going to live in a Jetsons era, a Jetsons time frame. But there's also drones that I've seen that can now take people somewhere. There's also drones that are used for medical transport of specific limbs or specific body parts to get it to surgeons quicker. Of course, there's photography and all that stuff. And it just, I guess it varies, right? What's the intent throughout it? And we usually use the use of force triangle. See what's the capability of it, what's the opportunities that this drone may have, and what's the intent behind it. That use of force triangle is extremely important to identify what that is, whether you find a controller or you see something in the air and decide to report it, right? There's just so many variables, Dr. Hansen, that can just happen. But I'm excited to see the future. I'm excited of the innovation.
So. And do you think that more and more it'll move towards automated defense of automated attacks?
I think so. The human factor, I think, is important to always be there. But as UTM and ATM, right, the unmanned traffic management stuff does start to happen, the normal everyday daily things will be able to, be just automatic, right? I can't give you examples, but just off the top of my head, not to say it could become like an Uber, the next Lyft or something like that. That's, international, to give people rides, but then it can, you never know. I mean, you already, I've seen and talked to people like, where is it? Cruise, the company Cruise in the Bay Area, who has automatic, vehicles that just, drive on by themselves. So, and that's been around for a while now, until now they're kind of releasing it to the public. But then, like, oh man, are the machines really gonna take over? Is this Terminator 2 really kind of happen? And then the other side or the flip side of things, where you can specifically have delivery on demand. The restaurants, stuff like that. Get a drone, get it in the air, avoid the traffic, anything to, get time is money. So anything to get to the customer quicker to keep him on and, make it happen. And, you just never know. But I would say yes to answer your question. I do believe it will go that route, Dr. Hansen. I just think we just got to be really, really careful with it, right? Last thing we need is control. But actually, I saw a newsreel earlier about a kid that got his finger broken by a robot, playing chess earlier. So I was like, wow, it's kind of crazy.
I saw in the news a few weeks ago that there was a teenager who had programmed his drone in the Ukraine, Kiev, to follow and identify tanks, Russian tanks.
I saw that. Yes.
Yeah, passing that information on to the local army to defend. With the work that you're doing with the military, what sort of subjects and studies, programs of learning do you think that maybe teenagers, young adults should really go into if they're interested in pursuing something that you're doing?
Sure. There's learning to fly is only probably half the battle, and people over here who manages that is obviously the FAA. You have to get a Part 107 in the United States if you're going to become a pilot that gets paid or wants a career in it. There's also the Trust Pilot certification. I'm a Trust Pilot certified, who is just flying for fun. No ill intent, just something that you want to do. That certification that's free. They just ask for your information and that you register, whichever drone you're flying. I would say for the unmanned systems, follow the specific companies and what their goals are and try to align it with something that you would like to, do or why you would like to fly. If it's something in the counter UAS side, study the different counter UAS companies, the kinetics, right? There's what is it? There's Battelle, there's White Fox, people I dealt with on a regular basis. There's Citadel Defense. I mean, you name it. It's an electronic warfare world, if you will. Especially now with everything being electronic, right? We can't be away from our phones that much. But studying electronic warfare would be, something that I would definitely start with. Going to the best colleges, universities that offer it, or the biggest innovation hubs, like the University of Oregon, maybe, or anywhere that really harness and focus their efforts on that special type of warfare, if it's military or government. Frankly, in the U.S., the defense side is the only one authorized to bring drones down, and even then, obviously, people kind of have a fit about it. It's still real dangerous. You can't just do it, So we gotta be careful on how it's done because of the people. But of course, national security is of the utmost importance. So if you gotta bring it down, it'll get bring it down.
Right. And look, just to wrap up, and I do want to honor your time, could you just share about your role and the reason for your role that you're doing now with the military as a project manager?
Sure. So I usually manage, program managers in the defense side. We're probably like a dime a dozen. There's nothing super fancy about it, specifically with me, I was assigned that because of my enthusiasm, but also my knowledge of how drones are made, what their goals are, specific payloads, and the knowledge on what it would take to actually counter it, right? Because usually you'll have somebody, either an ATO or somebody that doesn't have this background, and is like, hey, I know nothing about this, but this is a threat. This is something to defend ourselves from. What? How do I go about this? So I'm obviously sought out for expertise. And my main focus is obviously training and teaching, military and law enforcement as an instructor. That specific one, obviously, I have to upkeep with the utmost important stuff, which is, the directives from either NASA or the FAA or Northcom or whoever's kind of sending down information of the intelligence that they have, in order to make sure that we have the capabilities to, kind of stop it. So that's pretty much the gist of my position, Dr. Hansen.
I think it's really great for students, particularly who are thinking what career paths are possible, where is the technology going, how can I use that knowledge in different ways. There's so many opportunities now with drones and UAV and programming and AI, and so thank you very much for giving your time. And I do want to say as well, as a veteran, as someone who served your country, thank you for your service.
No, thank you for your support, Dr. Hansen. I appreciate it. And hey, maybe I'll come down and visit sometime. I'd be honored. I'd be so honored to meet you.
We would love to have you down here. So once again, thank you so much, Guidel, for being with us. And for everybody else, we're going to have links to Guidel's LinkedIn profile with the show notes, so you can reach out to him if you'd like to do that. And we are very thankful that Guidel is actually on our advisory board for Drone Legends Aotearoa, so we get to benefit from all of his experiences, wisdom, and the innovations that he's leading as well. So we look forward to seeing you again on our next Drone Legends Aotearoa interview.
Have you ever